All right, we are back for another episode of She Will Not Fall. And I have to say this, Laura, me and you are identical because every time I play that countdown music, I'm always jamming to it. Like I saw you, I was like, yes, that's me all day. I'm always jamming to that thing. So I'm really excited because on this episode we have Laura and Tamika, and they are the founders, the creators, the podcasters of For College Girls. And we're going to be hearing a little bit about their story, how the podcast and the work that they're doing came about. And so I'm just really excited that y'all are here. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. Yes,
Of course.
not
Of
fall.
course. Yes. And I love it because it's the first time I have interviewed two women at the exact same time. So this makes me super happy. Like really, really happy. So I'm excited. So around here, we take from the popular social media trend how it started versus how it's going. So we always start with how it started, which is your story. So just kind of walk us through a little bit about who you are, how y'all met, and then how y'all started For College Girls. I don't know who wants to go first, so whoever feels led to go first, the
I will
floor
go.
is yours.
I will go first. I love this question, and I also think this is the first time that this question, there's like some emotions that are like surfacing for me, because Tamika and I met in such a exploratory time of my life. And at the same time, like our friendship was life saving. I don't know if I ever told you that, Tamika, but like our friendship, like literally saved my life in many ways. In a ministry, so I graduated from seminary. Um, was the lead. Let me say this: I was the first Black woman lead pastor at this church in downtown Baltimore. And it was my first congregation, and there were a lot of first. And it was overwhelming because as a United Methodist, and I will openly say this, we are a white denomination and do not have resources, nor the best support always for Black women who enter into white congregations that have always been led by men. And I was really trying to figure out kind of what is safe for me, what is life giving for me, and how will I not get drowned within in this building. And then the amazing Tamika came along. And when we first connected, Tamika's spirit was just like, these are my people. This is who I need to be around. And we would often kind of just talk about our lives and our calling. And really, out of that came this conversation for College Girls, because I feel like for ourselves, we needed a safe space to talk about all the things and to talk about, too, where we exist and where we are represented in the ministry. And our tagline is oh my gosh, for Black women who were always told that God was a man until she finally spoke to them. And
Ooh.
it's just this understanding, right, that the spirit of the living God comes to us, yes, in many forms, but in our female form, right, in our womanish form, we are seen, we are known, we are identified, we are deeply loved and appreciated, and are deserving of the breath, the life that is ministry. And so that became For College Girls. And we have this beautiful podcast that season after season with Tamika, we learn so much, and so much is kind of being just revealed to us in each season. And I also will add this, like, I also feel like the seasons that we've built are very in tune with the seasons of our lives. And I think that has also just been a beautiful gift and friendship and sisterhood that For College Girls have just like become. So I'll stop there. That's
I
good.
love it.
I can't even follow you. You friend, I love you so much. Yeah, so I met Laura at the same time I'll be, but I was in seminary, and I had just changed denominations. I grew up in a more Pentecostal, well, a church with a Pentecostal background, and I hadn't really gone to that church for so long, and kind of went around to different kinds of denomination, different churches, and I found myself looking for something else. Like, this, none of this is connecting, is basically where I was at. And I landed in the Lutheran church, which is also predominantly white, the ELCA, Lord. And then, yeah, I met Laura, and she was doing what I was going to be doing. And I looked up to her. I mean, literally, I look up to her. I'm very short, and she's much taller. and and um, I really, like, she was doing the thing that I knew that I needed to be doing, that I was going to be doing, and I looked to her for guidance to see what this thing was going to look like. And I learned so much from you, Laura. Like, I remember sitting in your church office and us just having these long conversations, and I was like, oh God, this is what I'm signing up to. Um, but also the life that we got from just being around each other and supporting each other. And it went from kind of, you were kind of like a mentor to me, actually, Laura. Believe it or not, you didn't know. I didn't ask you. It wasn't consensual. But um, we ended up having these moments where we were sharing about our faith, about what we were hoping God was doing with us. And it became a conversation that we wanted to share with the world, especially with Black women like us, and like us being, yes, womanist, yes, perhaps a pastor, but truly living in a world where you might feel like you don't have others who are like you in the spaces that you are working and doing the work, right? So for us, it was about sisterhood and connection and support and talking about stuff that matter to us. And we started our podcast when podcasts were starting to like really start to get going. So, and we didn't know what we were doing, but we did it. Like, we were gonna try, and it was like a really worthy cause, I think. And yes, like Laura said, it changes each season for us, and I feel like we've grown as human beings just by doing this together. The experience has really, really helped me personally, spiritually, grow. The growth that I have now as a person, as in my spiritual walk, is definitely, I can give that, a lot of that, to our podcast and to my relationship with Laura.
I love that. So there are a couple of things I want to touch on, but I think the first one I want to start with is diving a little bit deeper into the sisterhood piece. So one of the things that I try to tell people all the time, and especially women, I'm like, first of all, you can't be in community with any person that you mark as competition, right? Like, we are, as a collective, we should be able to support each other. I don't want to dim your light. Like, I want us to be in proper community. So, can you talk about the ways in which, first of all, this is like such a beautiful, healthy form of sisterhood to me that the two of you have? Even before we started, like, I just love that Lord wanted to make sure you were good. Like, no, sis, fix this. You know what I'm saying? So, like, can you talk about the ways in which that's enhanced your life, and then talk about how you're creating that for other women and the impacts you've seen creating that type of space for other women?
Oh, now I'm emotional. Oh my God. Okay. Well, I will say this. Um, okay. This is fine to share it on the podcast. I'm actually happy to share it. I just had surgery 2 weeks ago. And like most Black women, it's very common amongst us. I had fibroids. which may seem small and insignificant for people who don't understand how invading they are. But I went ahead and got a myomectomy, and I am quite happy that I got it. But I could not have gone through that without someone like Laura. Like, she was there for me, not just like with good words and like good vibe. Like, we have that going on with each other. Like, we can make each other laugh. We can share all kinds of parts of our lives together and like cheer each other up. But like, sis got somebody to come and help clean my house, y'all.
Oh
Knowing that
my
that was
gosh.
going to be something that I really needed, and prepared meals for me and came to my house and loved on me. And that to me is the ultimate form of sisterhood and friendship. And it's not just like that you have to do all of these things, like sacrifice yourself. In fact, I feel like with the two of us, there is no sacrificing. This is like a very mutual, loving relationship. And neither one of us require the other to sacrifice ourselves to be in this relationship. And I think that that is like a part of what makes the sisterhood so beautiful. Like, we bring our whole selves. We look, we come as we are. And sometimes it
I
ain't
love
cute
it.
at all, but it's beautiful, because I feel like I can be Tamika with Laura. Like, I can fully be Tamika with Laura. And I think as Black women, we can do that for and with each other, in the most beautiful ways if we see that that is possible, right? Um, and we do that, right? We do that. It's just that we don't often give ourselves the credit, that we are capable of loving each other in such beautiful ways. So, yeah.
Amen. And it was what you deserved, friend. Like, I, it was out of a spirit of abundance, but like, it is what you deserved, knowing specifically the work that I do and the medical system that our Black bodies face every day. Like, we deserve care, right? And so doing all those things is just like, no, this is what you deserve. This is what you need. Um, and I also think, yeah, same. Like, just in terms of our sisterhood has been such a journey of authenticity and also owning our voice. Y'all, if you're listening to this and you're like, how do I cultivate my voice? How do I get to the core? Start a podcast with someone that you love and adore and respect and value. Because really, like, I would say that, like, I have come to the other side of this, the how, like, where it was, now where you are, the Instagram thing. I'm probably getting that language wrong, but anyways. Um, but yeah, like, I'm like, I am so much more confident in my voice and like hearing my voice and receiving that. And a lot of that has to do with Tamika and I's relationship and calling Tamika and be like, is this okay? Because I'm an overthinker. And Tamika's like, friend, chill, chill, chill. And so I definitely appreciate that. And I think the other thing I would say is that our sisterhood, what I'm so grateful for is it is not without boundaries, right? So
Mhm.
there has been times where Tamika has pulled me and be like, friend, accountability is needed for this moment.
Mhm.
And those moments of like boundaries or even like checking in when like I need to vent about something. Do you have the capacity for this? Like, I just appreciate reflecting when there are moments that we can't show up for each other in the ways that we may need in that moment. It's not like in relationships I've had before, like in sisterhoods I've had before, it's not like, oh, you're terrible, or like, it is a healthy reflection of like, this is how we care for each other in the way that we deserve, within boundaries, within respect, within being able to reflect to what we need from each other out of like love and accountability. And I just really like appreciate that. We also have a podcast episode about that. I believe it's season 3 or season 2. But we do talk about that. And I just really appreciate that journey and that kind of what we have cultivated in understanding sisterhood and relationship to boundaries and accountability as well.
I love that because I think that there is a certain level of vulnerability and that you feel safe to be vulnerable. I think that's the critical piece. I think I had posted this on Twitter maybe a few weeks ago, and I was like, there are a lot of women that I've encountered that have very unhealthy views of friendship. And I was like, I don't identify with that because I want every woman that is attached to me, that we're friends and we run into, I want you to win. I want you to succeed, right? Like I want to be cheering you on. And then if you broke down, I want to be there to wrap my arms around you and tell you, sis, it's going to be okay. And so I think that there is having a certain level of vulnerability where you feel safe to be vulnerable. And I think that's critical with friendships and sisterhood. Um, there was something you said earlier, Laura, that I kind of want to go back to um, about women seeing God reflected as they are. Um, Women struggle. A lot of the women that I have met struggle with this. And I actually recently encountered this situation. And a part of me, it makes me incredibly sad that some women can't see God reflected as they are. Can you tell me some ways or some things that you may tell other women who are struggling with that, to see God as woman, to see God as feminine energy, to see God in that way that reflects who they are? When they struggle and they feel like God is just man. God is, because that's what's been given to them. So they don't know anything else. What are some ways, even in a pastoral way, that you have been able to present that to women who are really struggling with seeing God reflected as they are?
Whew. Whew. Whew.
This is the perfect question for Laura.
Lord have mercy. This is hard because there is there's a lot of pain and trauma with this question, both for myself and also the women that I have held in pastoral ministry. Um, and I would also say trauma that the church has not yet owned in terms of the ways that patriarchy and seeing um, God as a man does to the church's value of women and the church's, and then our value as women of our own selves, as our own, the imago Dei that breathes within us. And so pastorally, I go to that Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 27 verse, that we are created in their image,
Yes.
right? So that means, everything that makes me a woman, right? That is that we. And to not affirm that and see that within that text does something internally, emotionally, physically to us. And we need to connect with that. Um, and so I think I definitely start there, that the Imago Dei um, is so inclusive of the womanist, femme, woman identity, right? That we also, as pastors, as faith leaders, as people of faith, have to start our work there, right? Like, how do we see God within us, that for those of us who identify as women, as femme? And then the other thing, and this is something that Tamika and I did in the Lenten season that I so deeply appreciated, going through Dr. Christina Cleveland's Lenten study, Christ, Our Black Mother, where, she talks about Christ, actually, the Christology um, of understanding Jesus as a Black woman, right? And hearing that, internalizing that, walking through that study through a liturgical Lenten season also does something within you, especially like for myself, when you have been raised for the last 3 decades of your life, only seeing Jesus in a male form. So, what is it to offer the discussion of Jesus through the journeys of the cross, stations of the cross, as a Black woman, right? And how do we hold that? So, I think that there is so much there, but I think you have to begin with what is it for you to see yourself as the image of God?
Yeah. Tamika, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
I mean, Laura said it all. The other thing that needs healing is why are we so strongly against it? It's like, what is that thing in us that we can't see God like us? I mean, and so I think that also comes with the healing work of self awareness and self love, which we do a lot of in our podcast. We talk about what it means to love ourselves, to put ourselves first, to not sacrifice our whole selves for the sake of what many of us have learned, that that this love that we are supposed to have in Christ is self-sacrificing in a way that diminishes who we are. And I think when we get to a place of seeing ourselves as like worthy and as someone who is very lovable, right? How could we not see God being like us as well, right? And I think the other thing that people come up against is they think is this idea that if we say God is a woman, that now we are somehow taking away the maleness of God, which is which is interesting to say the least, right? There's something in that, right? Where there's a fear that somehow giving God feminine qualities takes away from the maleness. Like God can't be parent in all of the ways that we experience parenthood, right? So there's just a lot of things in there that it's just so deep rooted that it's really you have to unearth some of that first before you can get to a place of really seeing what the issues are, right?
Yeah, and then don't even start talking about the non-binariness of God.
It's
Like then people it's-
too far, right? Which is so interesting, right? Because have you ever, when you've asked someone like or talk about God in feminine form, um the automatic thing is to say, well, God is neither male or female, God is God, right? And it's like, yes, sorry, my children are here. But God is God, right? And so God can also be non-binary, which is even more beautiful, which means that it's
so
like
powerful.
a full expression of the human expression, which is like if you think about it that way, then we are all included in this
Yes.
story, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you got a lot of things to to work through. A lot of
Like that's a whole nother conversation.
listen.
Like it's so nuanced. It's a whole nother
It really
conversation.
is, but it also is important to keep it there, like as
Yes.
we are unearthing the patriarchal and misogynistic aspects. We also need to unearth the other things that are holding us back from seeing the humanity of others, because that's what that is, right? If we can't see God like that, how can we see each other? So like that's the unearthing that needs to be done consistently, um, and then especially in our circles. I mean, I love us, and we can be hard to change. Um, So
Very
yeah.
agree.
Yep.
Very.
Mhm.
Like, especially, I always tell people, I was talking to someone and they were like, I just don't understand why, some women in the, especially Black church spaces, why they can't, why they're treating other women this way. And I said, I can. I said, because if women are heavily indoctrinated into patriarchal frameworks and structures, they become gatekeepers of that. So men never have to do heavy lifting. It's like, men never have to do it. So it makes total sense to me. So yeah, I agree with you. We have to keep that conversation at the forefront. So walk me through, what are y'all working on now? So we gotta talk about how y'all met. We done dived into some deep stuff. Like, oh, I wanted to go deeper, but I'm like, I can't. We gotta keep going. Um, what are y'all working on now? What are some things that people can be on the lookout for from both of you, collectively, individually? What are some things that y'all got going on?
Season 5, friend. Oh my gosh.
Yes. We made it to season 5.
Season 5, 6 years, 5 years in the making, almost half a decade.
Love it.
My Lord. Yes, we have a season that is gonna come out to you shortly. It will happen.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I think that is the most exciting. I don't think we'll divulge like the theme of it yet. Maybe it'll still be a surprise, but know that the season is coming. And did we want to talk about the other thing?
Not yet. I'm sorry. We're
No, it's fine. I just didn't want to open my mouth and be like, wait a minute.
Okay, we can share this. I think what we have realized as we have journeyed through podcasting and being for college girls is that we have a lot more to offer than just a podcast, and so we're exploring other ways that that we can share our gifts and from our experiences, the needs that we have. And by we, I'm speaking specifically of clergy women, but it's not just for clergy women. We're just working on something for clergy women in this moment. But yeah, and I like to add that one of the things that if you follow us, if you want to join in on the experience of For College Girls, one of our principles is that we are not here to be consumed. And I know that that sounds very like, I don't know what that sounds like. And it's okay, however it sounds to you. And for us, the goal is always to be in a space where we are feeling like it's life giving, and to give each other the grace we need, because everything else in our lives demands a lot from us. So we have not allowed this uh, podcast, this sisterhood, to be that. So we take our time. And once and so we will say the season is coming out and it's going to come out, but we are intentional about not doing too much and not feeling like we have to produce something by a certain date. And people might mistake that as not being disciplined, and I understand that. But for us, the discipline is to care for ourselves, and to allow things to happen a lot more organically when we can. So yeah, I just wanted to add that
Makes
little
total sense.
caveat. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So how can people follow you? And if there's a way for people to sew into what you're doing, how can they do that as well?
You can follow us at For College Girl. I'm really bad with the social media hashtag, so Tamika always helps me with that. I'm old school. I'm like, go to our website at forcollegegirls. I think .org.com. .com. I'm doing a horrible job about God right now.
Wait.
This is good, Tamika.
Okay, but I have to add this. So, of the two of us, when you see us, right? Because I'm so small, I know that I look younger, but I'm a bit older than Laura, but Laura is like the oldest person I know. She's so old, and I love her so much for it. Like,
My soul
what is
is
old?
old.
Okay, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and on Facebook at For Collared Girls, and that's collared like the greens, so no E between the R and the D. And we also do have a website for collargirls.com. And most of our things right now haven't been updated, but the best way, honestly, to stay connected with us is we do a little bit more on Facebook Live. We have more conversations. So, especially during the church seasons, if you follow those things, so there will definitely probably be like an Advent season type conversation, and we just like to keep up there, and that helps us also with our podcast. So, all of those things, and it's best to just go there, y'all.
I'm gonna have it all in the show notes, so it's gonna be.
Yes, what Tamika said.
I'm gonna lay it completely out. It's gonna be all in the show notes.
Right.
Are, are there any final words that you want to leave with women who are listening right now? Anything on your heart that you just want to say as lasting words?
Hmm. Just gratitude for you, Marielle, and like this time. Thank you for the space and your voice as a podcast to remind us, right, that in this world of being consumed, like, we will not fall. Like, we will stand up, and as sisters, we can help each other get up. So that's one thing. So much gratitude to you. And yes, to Tamika's point about we move at the speed of care, right? Like, we do not want to be consumed. We want to care for ourselves, care for our listeners, and create in that space. So I hope for any sister, sibling, cousin, family that is listening right now, that you are also in your ministry and your vocation moving at the speed of care, because capitalism does not own us. Just know that.
Amen and amen. And I would like to add that I hope that you are finding the value in yourself. If you haven't taken the time to really like talk to yourself and love on yourself, do that today. It's like and that can look honestly like a quick conversation in the mirror. It does not have to be a long drawn out meditative thing where you can just be a little uncomfortable with talking to yourself for a minute, and trust me, it will matter. It does matter. So love on yourself, and yeah, appreciate who you are, because you're wonderful. I don't even know you and I already know it. So, yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you to the two of you for being on. I'm probably definitely gonna have to have you come back so we can have those deeper conversations for sure. But I'm grateful for your time and for you being vulnerable and just for the work that you're doing and just spend a little time with me and spend a little time with us in this sacred space. So thank you both for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we got to get you on our podcast too. So
Yeah.
Let's do it. I love it. Peace, y'all.